This you?
Was poppin'. Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to the live show. Yes, we are live on YouTube and Facebook. Shout out to all our people on both platforms or wherever you're watching this. Of course, episode 110 dropped today. I really like this one. I don't know about Moose, but I really like this one. I think just because we talked about Burner, and I'm just totally in love with what he's doing, and just his mindset about certain things. So I really liked it. Moose, did you like the episode? I don't know.
Last clip was my favorite. I'm not gonna lie. The Nori compensation whole setup. That was my favorite. That was my favorite.
Was it your favorite just because Jeter was on there?
Definitely.
Like low key, it wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't like on that one that we covered, but he was on that episode.
Yeah, he contributed to the greatness of the conversation. So by all means, I'm back wearing the Yankee hat.
We're back. Okay.
I've healed from my playoff scars, and it's time. Yeah, it's time to chase another championship. So things are good.
Okay. All right. I'm here for this. I'm here for it all.
Real baseball fans know this is when the season starts. In the off season, when you're making the moves, you're acquiring, you're building the business. This is like branding and business of baseball. You know what I mean? It starts right now. That's a nice little topic right there. Branding and business of baseball. Yeah.
I see what I won't be talking much on that one. I know. But yeah, you got it. You absolutely got it. I'm here for everything you want to do.
Yeah.
But we got a really, really dope topic today. Moose, introduce it.
Yeah, man. So I was thinking about, of course, customer journey, right? Last week we talked about, it was a sale. I think it was the difference between sales and marketing or something like that. I forget. But I was thinking about more so specifically around customer journey. And I wanted to dive deeper into the different elements that we can put into our customer journey that can engage the different personality types that we know exist out in the marketplace. So just to keep it simple, and for those of you not familiar with the flight assessment, please make sure you go ahead and visit the flight assessment or visit flightassessment.com to learn more information about the flight assessment. That is the assessment that we have co-founded and designed. So make sure you check it out. But in short, rather than talking about the 4 personality types that we discuss and break down in the flight assessment, I wanted to focus more around extroverts and introverts and how to uniquely design a customer journey that will speak to the different levels of desires, needs, and just their overall method and approach when it comes to learning, so that you as a brand can now better connect and better serve your customers, right? So instead of just looking at your customer as a plain avatar or someone who is an entrepreneur or a creative or a mom or this or that, well, what if we were to start diving deeper into their person by thinking about their personality and say, how does that person think? What's their perspective when looking at the world? And how can we put some things in our customer journey to engage them at a better way? And I think the first question I really wanted to start with, and this is just something I was thinking about, is it safe to say that customer journey starts with content? You were just talking about the importance of content there. And I'm like, man, what if we were to start thinking about, and again, if I'm right about this, just, of course, add your take, but I'm thinking like, if we were to start to think about customer journey, starting with at how we put out content rather than after we convert someone to a paying customer, I wonder how that will shape and mold, our approach or our interaction and relationship with the marketplace in general. But yeah, take it away. Is it safe to say is that where it starts, or does customer journey start at a different point, or just a little bit later?
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the first introduction that we get to brands and businesses is through content. Like, I don't know how else they would know unless it's a local event, local situation. But yeah, I think it's going to be content. And that's why I always say, from a global standpoint, you don't have a brand unless you have content. We don't know you. We can't build trust in you. We can't check you as far as your track record or anything to that point. So yeah, of course, it would start with content.
I love it. So let's dive into that right there and maybe talk about how you've infused different elements in your content to speak to both the introvert and the extrovert, right? So from I know from a general standpoint, we always talk about you're naturally going to speak to yourself. So if you feel as though you're an extrovert, you're most likely going to speak predominantly extrovert. Let's just think of them as languages for a moment, right? So if extrovert was English per se, then of course you're going to spend the majority of your time speaking English because that's the language that you know. And if introvert was, I don't know, let's say French or Italian, then that's something you're going to have to learn to adjust or strategically place in your content so that you can begin to engage some introverts as well. So talk about that, Nix. What are some ways that our content can engage introverts, and what are some ways that it can engage extroverts?
I think that's just understanding introverts and extroverts. Like, very easy way that I think of it, because I don't try to think complex. I leave that for Moose. He thinks complex, and I think very simple. But we as extroverts love nice shiny objects, really attracting, distracting vibes. So video is something that we love, right? Whereas maybe introverts, even though I have a brand new love for reading, and I feel like I'm late in the game, but that's okay. But introverts love to read, love to write, just like to get to know more about things, where extroverts is more of like, oh, let me see it. I can hear it too, but like, let me see it and get to the point and I'm Gucci, right? So from that just basic standpoint, we can get deeper into that if you want to, but just from that basic standpoint, we want to know how visually can we get the attention of extroverts? How can we get to the point for them? But then also, how do we leave space for the introverts to get a further understanding about what we're doing? Whether it's from a, reading a caption that comes into detail, whether it's an email, whether it's a blog post, whatever it is, what can we do? So for me, this is why there is a podcast, to be honest with you. I know I am video heavy. I don't even like taking pictures. I'm like video heavy, right? And there's like stages. So because of how I am and how I receive information, I'm going to go with that first. So I did video. I understood down the line that I needed to stop doing maybe 2-3 sentences in my captions, and thinking that everybody was watching the video. And I went a little bit deeper with my captions, giving a little bit more details, doing certain points, making it visual. Even if the extroverts wanted to read, they see the points to it, but I definitely went more into the captions. And then there was a season where it was like, okay, I'm not going to write. That's just a little bit too much. But I could do audio, and hence why the podcast became a conversation. And now it is what it is, 110 episodes later, because we knew that there are a lot of people that are on the go that would want to listen to it. There's some people who don't want to look at the video, just want to hear it. So the audio was very important to kind of please the introverts, video please the extroverts. But also, even within the podcast, this is why we have a YouTube channel as well, where now we're getting different clips. And think about it, from a long form, that could also be for the introverts, because they could sit and watch a whole thing, where the extroverts may just need to get straight to the point, and we got the clips for that. So it's just understanding one side, nice shiny object, get to the point, give me more detail, make me feel warm and fuzzy, give me the facts. Here you go.
Yeah, wonderful breakdown. I love that. Hey, and for those of you who are tuned in with us, man, first off, make sure you share this with a couple of people, please, who you feel can benefit from it. Business owners, creatives, personal brands alike. Definitely make sure they tap in with this. And also drop in the comments, man. I'd be curious to know, which of these styles do you identify with the most? Do you identify with the extrovert group? Are you that happy, bubbly, friendly person? Or are you more of an introvert? You feel that's more of your swag, your style, your tempo, right? You're more maybe a little bit more laid back, not so much in the scenes. You like to read and do things on your own, or maybe in solitude. So let's just get an idea, drop it in the comments. I do want to ask, man, especially with the era of Reels and TikTok, are captions no longer the thing? Because I wanted to know, I know you said you expand on the detail in the captions, but with everything being so short form, and we're seeing a lot of platforms like YouTube, TikTok, of course, Instagram, going in that directions. It's a lot of the quick edits, mini snippets. Are long drawn captions out of style, or are they still here to stay?
No, they are still here for the purpose of SEO as well. So actually, TikTok just expanded their character limit to I don't know, a lot of characters, a whole lot of characters. You couldn't get a lot of characters on TikTok, and now you could write a mini blog on TikTok. Why? Because they realize, a lot of people search for topics in TikTok. It's not just Google. It's not just YouTube anymore. TikTok is one of those things. Instagram is trying to do that as well. Depending on certain Google searches, Facebook does come up from a video standpoint based off what you wrote. So yes, captions are still needed, if anything, for discover purposes. So SEO, keywords, that whole nine.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. I might need to make some adjustments then, because I was under the impression that ain't nobody reading captions anymore anyway, so don't spend too much time.
No. Go write that up. Go write that up.
I'm not gonna lie. There was a season where I was spending probably more time trying to write the caption than I was on the, creation of the content piece itself. And so I've been a little bit more chill on this time around, but I think it's might be good for me to start expanding on that as well. But I get you. Okay. One thing I want to add from a business side, and then we'll continue this dialogue for sure, because you might think about, well, from a customer journey standpoint, how does extrovert and introvert start to play into how I do business or transact with, people of that particular group? And off the bat, man, I got to tell you that you want to appeal to the emotion of the extrovert. And we've talked about often how a majority of people buy off of emotion, whether positive ones or negative ones. So there might be some people who are buying off of positive emotion, meaning that they desire to have something maybe long lasting in their life. They want to maintain or continue something that is good in their life. And there are others who are trying to run away from a negative emotion, maybe the fear or FOMO or lack of confidence or low self-esteem. So emotion is one of the things that honestly both groups are going to relate to. So even when you think about how you might do something as simple as designing a landing page or a website, or the order in which you're trying to place those buttons for people to transact and connect with you, you want to keep the emotion first. You want that to be the first thing that pops out, so that they can, those who appeal to emotion, they can immediately connect with that. They gravitate it. And those who are not really intrigued by the emotion, those are the introverts that are going to do the digging anyway. And so you want to place the next section, and again, think of this in the order of a landing page, just for simple terms or simple examples. You want to leave that logic piece in the middle, right? You want to go into the details, the explanation of what is it, how long will it take, whatever details that might be relevant to your product or service. You want to speak to that next. Now, something as simple as keeping those things out of order can mess up the customer experience or the customer journey and how someone interacts with you, just because, again, that's not the order in how most people think. Right. So again, first start with emotion, next appeal to logic, and then lastly, you do want to push people into action, right? Mm-hmm. And you'll notice that you can always learn a lot about your potential customer, especially when you think about where you were before you were developed, before you reached your quote unquote next level, right? And I know for me, I was someone who was always of a bottom of the page type purchaser, because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't making any mistakes. So I realized that, or at least in my thought process, if I took my time, if I scanned through everything, if I made sure everything checked out, then I would act. And quite honestly, I always needed a little bit of urge. I needed to say some form of cosign, or maybe even a push, so that I can say, okay, bet, I'm going to just go do it. Right. And so some of those things are, say, what you could think of, again, going back to that FOMO or exclusivity. Mm-hmm. So closing off with that, it's going to get those people who even made it to the bottom of the page to finally take action and move. So just know that depending on the personality type of the customer base that you are speaking to, and again, let's assume that we are eventually going to get to both, and because of how they think, how they really process things psychologically, you want to put things in order for them so that it can get them to act and have a successful experience nonetheless. Nix, I want to talk next about, say, that next step. So now, definitely if you have something to add around just getting someone to transact from an extrovert or an introvert standpoint, please do add to it.
Oh, but no, you broke that down lovely. And people taking notes.
Yeah, I want to talk next about once now they're enrolled in whatever your product, service, or community, right? Just once they've now engaged in something with you financially, what's that next piece that we want to keep in mind? Whether it be the way we teach, the way we train, the way we just lay out resources for them to interact with. How can someone begin to think about it differently, again, from that extrovert or introvert standpoint, to keep people engaged? Because the way I like to think about it is, if I am motivated by a certain thing, there's only so much drive I can continue to manufacture if what I'm driven by is not actively present in the environment that I'm trying to take part of. So the more that those things that I'm motivated by are present, the more I'm engaged, the more I'm likely to stick around, the more I'm likely to push through. So, yeah, what are some elements that you've seen, from your side as it relates to that?
So I could speak on like what we did with one of our programs and how we really tried to keep everybody engaged, right? Once again, when you think of, and I come from more of the information side of things, right? When you think of courses or programs or whatever, especially from an extrovert side, okay, do a whole bunch of videos, go, right? You do a whole bunch of videos. That's only one part of it, right? So what we started to do was, okay, let's get the video, but then let's get the audio, and then let's get a worksheet that they could place in Notion, and then kind of recap it in underneath the video and have them link to where they go for the worksheet. Now, once we started doing that, then it hits all sides. Some people don't want to watch the full video, right? And then also we shorten it up. I used to do like 16, 20-minute videos. Now I'm doing like the way it's edited, it's like 5-6 minutes.
Yeah.
And then a quick summary of it, then another 5-6 minute video. Here's a template. So understanding one that everybody receives information differently and everybody absorbs it differently as well, knowing that if we was to cover the different ways people consume content, then it would be easier for them to truly understand and execute on it, which was the biggest goal for it. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to get people to execute on the information. Then I have to bend based off, maybe this is my natural, but I have to bend into making sure that I'm not only doing what I'm good at, but I'm doing what other people are able to receive the information. So now it makes me look at the other programs on some, okay, we got to do the same thing. You know what? We got to roll back. Let's shorten up these videos. Let's make sure each one has a kind of a summary. Make sure that there's some type of drawing, a visual picture of some sort that they can identify. Okay, I remember that in the video. That's a good part. Maybe I'll actually save it in that. And so we make sure there's a visual as well, to just capture that sense. And then, of course, the written part, because when you write it down, you tend to remember it more. So that's something that we're doing now. And then down the line, and it's a little bit too early for me to speak on this, but understanding gamification when it comes to, products as well as marketing, right? So understanding there are core drives of why people do what they do. Why do people buy certain things? Why do people stay engaged in it? How do we get it to where it feels as if they want to do it instead of that we are baiting them to do it, right? So I'm in this season right now of learning that and realizing everything that we see, even from a very simple standpoint of LinkedIn with a progress bar, right? That's part of a gamification. They're not saying you're in a game, but you want to finish whatever profile situations that you got to set up in order to complete that, right? How are we making sure that people are staying motivated to buy, motivated to stay engaged, motivated to go through an experience with us? So that's another level that I can speak on probably later, but definitely from an introvert, extrovert, once they purchase from an informational standpoint, that's what I did.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Hey, slightly off topic. Where do you think the world of content is going to be in the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 years? Like, do you think trends is there anything that you have in mind? Like maybe, I don't know, a guesstimated prediction that you're thinking about. Okay, in a couple of years from now, there's something that's going to be outdated. Something that's super popular right now that might be outdated, or there might be this new feature that is going to be more embraced or needed. I don't know. I just feel as though when you think about the history of businesses in general or brands in general, it's crazy to think that at one point, Blockbuster became extinct. Yeah. And for some of us, we might have not really felt what that is. But we're also at a time we're starting to see Netflix slowly becoming extinct, right? And I know that might be a bold prediction, like, whoa, what you mean Netflix is going away? But if you think about it, from a business standpoint, they are starting to take a hit. So it just lets you know that innovation and continuing to think about trends as they pop up and which will really be here to stay or become louder. It's something that a lot of us as creatives and entrepreneurs need to start working that muscle a little bit. And I can even tie it back to honestly being somewhat introverted, because one of the things that we know about introverts is that they dislike change.
Yeah.
That's a natural part of their persona. When they get accustomed to something, they gain confidence through repetition. So if you can help them continue to go through it, and then they start to feel as though they're doing it on their own, they get more confident in their ability to follow through in it. So when you take that same personality or how someone thinks, and then you tell them about the importance of innovation, for some, they're like, no. Do you realize how long it took for me to, get accustomed to this rhythm and this flow and this routine? And now you're telling me to shelf that and get ready for the next thing. So I think the sooner that we can begin to talk about trends and what's next and what could be it. Again, nothing is guaranteed. Like, we all understand everyone makes predictions, and the weatherman can still be wrong, I don't know, a good amount of the time. But what if any do you think are some trends that might be here to stay or on the rise in the next year or two?
I'm not going to say, looking at patterns is not necessarily that things from content, leave or anything. Like, if they leave, they come back, right? We're looking at now vintage photos and videos now, that little grainy film that like, that's all coming back. I think it's more of the distribution, because if you even speak about how you said Blockbuster and Netflix, this is all distribution. We talk about MySpace as distribution. Like, so it's more of maybe the distribution of content, how that's going to change, which, I mean, we will see. Meta is very focused on the metaverse. And so where that goes, we don't know, because right now they're taking a huge hit because they are focused more on that than anything else. Twitter is tweeting with the changes of Elon, and some people are leaving and some people are staying. Shorts, short form is just where we're at, but that doesn't mean long form is going away. It just means there's just more, energy towards it. So I can't necessarily say trends wise and from a content standpoint, what will be in the future, what will stay, what will go. I just know down the line, something is going to get disrupted from a distribution standpoint, and we should just see what that is.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like video is definitely not going to move. No. Nothing is going to change the importance of video. I don't want to say forever, but for a very long time, that's for sure. Okay, let's go into one of your more favorite topics now, or maybe, I guess, elements, community. Yeah. So when you talk about or think about community, and of course, you're thinking about these two styles or just the different people that might be in a community, there's always this challenge, I feel, where the leader of a community has their way of doing things. Mm-hmm. It's what they've mastered, what they're most accustomed to. And then there is that stretch or that extra level of growth that they have to account for, whether personally or through other members on their team, to appeal to the other half that may say, well, what about this? Or did you is this available? Right? They have some extra questions that might pop up, and it might make you think like, man, some are great ideas,
Mhm.
others are terrible ideas, and I think as someone who's a part of a community, it's you get to see that both exist. But what's the balance or approach when it comes to thinking of a community setting now, knowing that the different styles are there, and just managing expectations, really engaging people through that whole scene?
I think it goes back to just understanding people, right? And so where when we are distributing any type of information, any announcements, whatever it is, how are we making sure that everybody gets notified, right? Some people won't see the video, some people won't see the text, some people won't read the email. Like, are we are we getting them in every single way that we can? Because if not, somebody's going to feel left out. Some people, even when you think about doing your group calls, if you're in a community and you have group calls, right? Some people will only listen, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you keep them in a big setting, they will only listen. So are you going and breaking down into smaller groups to where they feel like they could possibly say something, right? The Q&A situations, understanding that there's going to be a random pause. All right, anybody got questions? And it's like crickets for a little bit. And then one person got to be brave enough to say something. And if you allow us the question and answer to go a little bit longer, you're going to get more people to finally raise their hands because now they've taken a minute to get the confidence and the fear out of their way to finally ask a question, because asking something in a public setting is nerve-wracking to introverts, right? So the extroverts are out of the way. Now they're like, yo, you sure you got any questions? And then here comes one or two that always trickles in after the time frame, right? It's always about, when it comes to a community, how are we making it safe for both sides, introverts, extroverts? How are we creating a space that they are allowed to give feedback, they are allowed to be themselves, they're allowed to consume whatever information in the style they want to? But it's, unless you created a community just like you, only introverts, only extroverts, only this, and you have, like, unless you did it in that way, 9 out of 10 times we're going to attract people with different personality types, and that we have to be aware that what we like, they may not like all the way. And so how do we make it feel as if this is still for them, even though we created it?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, there's a lot of little things, man, that make such a small difference, right? And if you notice, we got some feedback once from the community, and again, shout out to everyone in of course the extreme execution community. But there was some feedback once where it was like, hey, when you start the call, and it's natural, right? It's like little things, and that's why I say it's so critical to listen for feedback, because some of it can be really, really good information that can make you a better leader,
Mm-hmm.
even if it goes against what you believe or naturally think.
Yep.
Don't be quick to push it off and be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about, because not all feedback is a personal attack. And
Yep.
if you allow yourself to really just digest what's being said, you might find a lot of opportunities. You almost got to look at it like free information. People are participating in your community. They're likely subscribed or paying customers, but they're now providing you feedback to make what you have better. They're participating in the building and the development of it all. And so one of the things, just something small like this, one of the things I used to do was I get on the call and I'll say, all right, y'all, thanks for plugging in. Drop a message so that more people can get on. And to me, that was that was almost as if I were being caring, right? I'm like, hey, let's look out for the community. Let's make sure everyone else comes on before we officially get started. Mm-hmm. And then one person came to me and said, it's almost as if you don't appreciate the people who got on time because you're wanting to still wait for those who are not there. So I was like, man, I appreciate the feedback. Like, honestly, it's small, it's a minor thing, but you know what? It makes sense. If you are someone who is likely introvert, you care about showing up to places on time, you plan your day accordingly to make sure that you're somewhere where you need to be, and that's important to you. And if I were the facilitator or the leader of the community and I don't acknowledge that, not just by my words, but my actions, then you by all means have every right to say, man, it's almost as if you don't appreciate me because you're waiting on the people who are not there. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, that feedback really opened up my mind more to speaking to the needs of the people and being mindful of it. So now I think about it, or one of the things that I'm always doing is when I start the call, of course, the pleasantries, but I'm getting started right away. And then just so that I can be inclusive of everybody, maybe 10 minutes in, I'll recap some of the things that have happened to get everyone up to speed. And then at this point, we're just full blaze ahead, right? If you come in 15 minutes late, all right, it's on you to go back and catch the replay or just, plug in the missing pieces together to make something happen. But again, you'll see that how little things like that, when taken into consideration, can be the difference between someone continuing to stay engaged and subscribed to your community, or someone saying, you know what? No, I don't know what it is, but I just want out. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you think about important pillars in every business model, one of those for us is retention. We focus heavily on retention because for someone, and I'll say it publicly, man, I don't hate sales, but I dislike it. I dislike the act of, at least traditionally, that's probably a better way to say it. Traditionally, okay. the way selling has been done. And so the more that I can spend time serving people and the less time I have to worry about selling them, the more in my element I am. And so when your retention numbers take a dip, if you're in any sort of, a subscription model or just continual revenue model, the more that your retention takes a hit, the more that you have to go back on Front Street to keep recruiting and keep selling and keep selling and keep selling and keep selling. And if that's not your natural style, that's one of the ways to wear out. So just you could see how some elements of community and understanding the particular groups that you're dealing with or working with and making adjustments accordingly can now also impact your business in a different way. It's like a lot of these little things, man. It's very interesting.
I love how you articulated that. That's good. I'm taking notes on these things.
I legit just thought of it because I got
a really good iPad now, so I'm like,
hey, shout out to the iPod vibe. Yeah. No, I literally just thought of it that way because I know for me, one of the things early on that I used to do was I used to be very against feedback in a sense, mm-hmm. because in some ways, I think my less developed self, I like to think that I'm continuing to get better every day. Okay. But at some point early in my career, my less developed self used to, whether consciously or subconsciously, I used to think that sometimes feedback, especially as it relates to the work, can sometimes be maybe a personal attack towards me as a person. And I remember having a conversation with you actually, where you were like, why are you spending so much time trying to go back and forth around the feedback that people are providing? All you have to do is just say, thanks for the feedback. We'll take mm-hmm. it into consideration. Yeah. And it was crazy, man, because that small adjustment allowed me to give the pathway or almost invite more people to come and share their takeaways and what they would like to see differently in small groups or big groups, honestly. And it allowed me to not have to respond emotionally to some of the information that was being provided. And then, as I mentioned earlier, that is free information that people are giving you to make your product or service better. And so when you go off just fighting them, you're pushing away that intel that can make something better. So now I look at that as really as opportunities to say, okay, how can I really put this into practice? Like, how relevant is it? Because sometimes something can be very relevant to get feedback from a community member, and it's just not high enough on, say, your level of priorities, right? You might have 5 things that you're trying to address, and what they say is it's really good, but it's like number 7. And it's like, hey, I'm not going to knock you. I can't tell you that it's not valid or relevant, but I really have to focus on these 5 things. So yeah, man, just a little bit of that between, of course, working with so many people and having so many hours in community and starting to understand what are some of the different elements that make something tick. It always helps to wrap the experience around full circle. Next, I want to talk about, oh, you got some?
I was going to say, and the importance of having a team that is the opposite of you is going to help too, because it takes the pressure of trying to figure out what to do or what to say or how they receive things when you have certain people that will just kind of suggest nicely, hey, you ever thought about this? You ever?
Yeah.
Those are the best ones. Like, if you can, especially those people who don't like taking feedback or anything, if you could put your guard down for like 3 seconds and just listen to you ever thought about this? Like, there's some really good information that and things that you can execute on if you were to listen to those things from people who are the opposite of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely valid and relevant. I wanna discuss next this one piece, and then we can kind of just open it up a little bit more, just generally speaking. But this is the last one on my list. But I feel that, and we're kind of in this season now too, which is a bit interesting. But we talk about having a true Ascension model, so that can complete the customer journey. Mm-hmm. And I think the simple way to think of it as, if you were trying to get from the first floor to the 5th floor, you need floors 2, 3, and 4, right? Logically, to make your way from floor 1 to floor 5. Now, listen, later on in life, I can imagine elevators became an invention and escalators became an invention that might have expedited our process to go from one to the other. But talk about, the customer journey, again, either for the groups or just generally speaking, from a pricing standpoint now, whether it be for people who are just engaging with a product or a service or our brands in general, or for those who have already been in community with us, and now we're trying to take them to that next tier. Maybe there's something that we now offer that is more of a, say, an inclusive service, or something that has more benefits and things that they can partake in. What are some, say, key ingredients that need to be thought about and included into that customer journey for it to make sense, where you don't push people away because maybe you just rush them to whatever your high ticket or exclusive offer is, versus really helping to grow them along that process? Yeah, please talk about that.
Okay, see what you did there. Okay, so there's a few things to that, right? We have to understand that people are introduced to us through content which is 99% free, right? Now, depending how strong your brand is, yes, you can possibly go from 0 to 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. You could possibly do it depending on how you grew your brand, right? Now, that's targeting your ideal client. That's actually disregarding all the other people that may rock with you because they may not be in the position, maybe mentally, maybe financially, to be an ideal client. They still need the steps. They still need the functional value. They may need still the emotional value. They may still need life-changing value of motivation and inspiration for them to feel comfortable to be like, you know what, I am this person who you are talking to. With understanding that, you need to create a customer journey, not only from the standpoint of monetization of going from free to possibly $50 to $100 to possibly a $500 to $1,000 to $5,000, like however your pricing may be. It's not even that. It's really from a customer standpoint of taking them from, hey, I'm in level 1 and you are guiding me to a full transformation of a level 10. And so once you do that, they have no problem giving you their money because they understand with this next level up, I'm going to be a new person, or I'm going to learn a new skill, or I'm going to get exposure to something I never had, right? Mindset unlocked like crazy. And so you have to look at your brand and understand what is the final end game that I'm trying to do, and what are the steps to get them to that if they were a level 1. If I deal with a level 1, because when I'm creating content, I'm not knowing what level they're on. I don't know if they are a 0 and they're just consuming. I don't know if they are a 4. Maybe they tried and they didn't get where they needed to go, right? And this deals with any type of brand, right? This is not just informational. This is like a fashion brand that people still need to feel amazing, feel as if in their great quality, right? So your most luxury type line can be the final end game, but how are we getting them? This is where maybe you give them a shirt and they finally see the quality. This is where maybe the hoodie comes in. Maybe then this is where the tracksuit or the sweatsuit comes in. Maybe this is where the jacket comes in. And then maybe this is where the high leather comes in. Like, there's always a journey no matter what brand you are in. You have to look at it. I'm going to get people in all different levels. How am I making sure I'm leveling them up to be my ideal client? And stop thinking we are that good that every time we shoot, we're going to get our ideal client each and every single solitary time.
Wow. Okay. Really nice hoodie, by the way. I was just looking at your hoodie while, yeah, very nice hoodie. Okay. So let's dive into that a little bit, because I think that definitely that was good.
Thank you.
So
Been
what
having a
if
little practice about it.
Yeah, live shots for sure.
Right.
So I mean, what about those people who want to be, premium? I don't know. I guess premium offers only, right? Like, I only want to do premium offers. Is that a thing?
Yeah. Yeah, that is. But even when you look at those, right? There's still little things. There's luxury, like card holders that they may have. There's luxury socks, phone cases. There's like glasses. I may not be able to get the bag, but I'm gonna wear the glasses. Shout out to Louis. I may not get the Louis bag, but I'm gonna get the scarf. I'm gonna get the belt. I'm gonna get the glasses. There until I can the final stage of I'm gonna get this bag, right? So yeah, you can be high end, premium, and everything like that, but there still is little things that you want to get people from. Okay, I can't afford everything, but I can at least spend $300 on this wallet that I know normally is like about 50.
Right.
It's about $50.
Yeah.
But I got 3 to be introduced into the brand. I'm going to be I'll pay the 3.
Man, it's so good that you put it that way because it's so true. A lot of the accessories is often the way that you get introduced to a brand that you really, really like or grow to like and can end up spending way more money than you imagine. Like I was actually surprised that Porsche, the car maker, right? They make hats. And I've always wondered, I was like, why would Porsche make hat? Like you sell $100,000-$200,000 cars, like crazy expensive cars. Why would you make a hat, right? And I think now it connects the dot, right? Because I may be introduced to the brand through something as simple as a hat that may not necessarily I can't necessarily afford the car just yet, but that's my way of saying, okay, I hope to one day be able to afford this, or I'm working towards this, right? That's really interesting that you put that out there. What about the other end of the spectrum, Nick? For those who are typically at an affordable rate, they are super intentional in wanting to make sure that they're accessible to any and everybody. But at what point do you start to say, okay, you need to start creating that next tier now? Like it's actually almost important. You aside from just this idea of, man, I'm leaving money on the table, but I think that you rob people of a certain level of exclusivity, or you stomp their growth when the rest of that extension is not there. Shout out to the person who said brand extension. I just stole that word right there. Thanks for putting that word right there. But yeah, like talk about that, because I can imagine maybe there's fear that could say, well, I don't know if they're going to afford it, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. But what about the other end of the spectrum and actually extending and raising the price, or beyond just raising the price, but obviously adding more value to do that?
I think it is a confidence level to understanding that we're creating brands that are helping people, that are motivating, educating, or entertaining people in some way, shape, or form. And that we have to create the different levels for them and allow them to be a part of it, right? Now, once again, and we've spoken about it, to where we have to be okay with serving one. You know, if we put something out there, a premium product that costs maybe the most that we've ever put out, and one person purchases that, that's still a win, because you've never done that price before. You've never put out that product, packaged it up in the way that you did, that service, package it up and put it the way you did and put it to that price point, and somebody bought, that means it works, right? Now, what we get in our head is, if we don't have the certain number that that we imagine once we've launched it, then it's a fail. And I'm like, these are all ideas that were just literally ideas, nothing tangible. We can't hold ideas. Like, we can't physically touch ideas until we actually execute on it, right? So, yeah, it could be scary, right? But if one person purchases it, it's working. And let's be honest, I had a premium product that did amazing in the beginning, and then it started to go down and down, and then I'm like, I'm okay with it because people are still purchasing it. Right? I'm not like, oh, this is a fail, this is trash, no. What was the intended results transformation that I'm trying to give to the people? And regardless of who purchases it, is that result and transformation still being done? If that is, it's working. The intent of you creating that and putting that price point based off resources, based off time, based off maybe market value or above market value, right? Based off your experience, all these things factor into your pricing. And if somebody takes that, whether it's a product, service, and they get the result and the transformation that you intended to have for them, it's a win. It's a win. But what stops some people is that they don't believe that the transformation, the results will actually happen.
Man, that's good. Yeah, it's funny because we're actually in the middle of working with a large organization now, and they have an independent network of thousands and thousands of, let's just say, in-house customers, right?
Yep.
Just so I don't get. So we were talking to them, and one of my questions to them was, what is one of the ways that you would consider this a success? Right? Just out of like curiosity, how would you consider this a success? They said, well, if we can get just 10%, if we can get a 10% adoption rate, that to us is a major win.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just shows you that, and you can do this literally in any which way, right? You can say, man, if I can get 10% of people who show up to my events, people who I maybe have on my email list, people who I speak to on a quarterly basis, whatever it is, if you can get 10% of those, and maybe 10% is too high for you. And quite honestly, I think for a lot of us who are just starting, 10% will be a little high. I know for some, they might say like 3 to 5%, whatever it is. But it just shows you that they are clear on at least what conversion rate is considered a major win for them. And it's not 50, it's not 70, it's not 80%. That's actually, it reminds me, it's funny, it reminds me of when I was, I want to say maybe still in college. I was interviewing for a high-end sales job at the time. I think it was with Marriott. And one of the dumbest mistakes I've ever made. I just be talking about all my mess ups here, y'all. So it is what it is. But one of the interview questions was, we're selling a very premium lifestyle product. What percent of the people you speak to do you think are going to buy? Mm-hmm. My first ever like introduction into sales. I was like, 70%. He was like, okay, no, that's a good answer. A little while later, he kind of came back and said, yeah, so typically less than 5% engage with what we're doing. And it just, again, it goes to show that you don't have to have this super high conversion rate to be successful, because it's just the natural cycle of it. So all of that to say, man, just pick your targets, and somewhere between 5 to 10%, I think, is actually very reasonable. It's a great win. And if you can take care of those people and really nurture them and spend time with them, giving them what they need, and coming up or creating success stories from that small group, that top line number will only grow just as a result of it. But, just fulfilling those promises is always a big thing. So good talk, Nix.
I like it. I like it, people. If you got any kind of value from this, if you are watching this live, drop your favorite emoji. If you're watching the replay, drop your favorite emoji. Both is the same. Of course, if this added extra value to you, is making your brain spin around, if you're watching this on YouTube live, please hit that super chat. If you're watching this live on Facebook, hit those stars. And if you're watching the replay, YouTube, hit the super thanks. Facebook, hit the stars again. You know what I mean? Definitely go listen to our podcast, Nicky and Moose, the podcast, episode 110 dropped today. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. The full episode drops, so go do that. Appreciate the conversation, Moose.
Yeah, thank you.
We see those emojis coming through. We appreciate y'all. And you know what we're gonna say.
Peace, y'all.
Holla.